So here we have our platform OG Graham, and he's our artist too today. We have him in studio. Now we're going to work on the verse guitar parts that we discussed a little bit yesterday when we were talking about the arrangement. Graham and I had a brief little discussion about how the parts are going to go down, and we got a little bit of a setup started just so we can kind of jump into this and be able to discuss things a little bit more clearly and move along at a good pace. So we always want to be, and I reinforce this all the time, we want to be prepared so that we can be creative and not slow things down. We want to move at the speed of creativity. So we just did a little bit of preparation, and now we're ready. We've set up, and then Graham came in and we talked about the part, and now we're ready to get the sound and execute the parts. We're going to start with the second verse because that's where our conversation ended. We discussed the part sort of entering at the an arpeggiated part entering at the beginning of the second verse, and then resting after the end of the first lyric line when there's a little bit of a pause in the cadence of the vocal, and then the arpeggiation is going to come in and continue through the pre-chorus to the chorus. So without further ado, we're gonna work on the sound, and Graham's gonna have an opportunity to get the performance together, and here we go. And I should also just explain that with Danny or Colton, who's not here today, helping run the computer, it allows me to be able to interact a little bit more one-on-one with the musicians, artist, and also sort of be able to help do some of the engineering and help Danny with things, but this allows me to be a little bit more creative. I realize that many of you will sort of be on your own, and I've been running the computer and doing some of the engineering, but this is also a reality of the way that I work. So I kind of just want to demonstrate this to you as well, because the interaction changes a little bit when you're not wearing as many hats, and it actually frees me up to pay a little bit more attention to the vision I have for performances and arrangement and sounds. Before we start, Graham, if you just sort of play the intended part, and I'm going to turn off the pedals that we had set up.
Yeah.
And just, so I should just reiterate or make clear that the guitar setup that we had last night is where we're picking up from. We took off the plasma pedal that was our distortion, and we've just changed out the pedals. I haven't changed any microphones yet, or changed their positions, or changed the amp settings. That may happen depending on what we need to do to get the sound, but we are just introducing a different, we've put in a delay pedal that has delay and reverb, and then before that there's a little bit of an overdrive pedal. We're going for primarily a clean sound, but not a completely clean sound, so just to sort of fill you in on what we're doing. Yeah, so let's just hear you play the part with no pedals.
Okay.
Yeah, no pedals. So I'm going to put the overdrive pedal in. The tone gets a little bit brighter, and we have a little bit more of overdrive. This focuses the sound a little bit, and now I'm going to put the delay and reverb in. So it's just like we have an idea in mind. We've discussed it, sort of gotten a starter sound, and now we're gonna as Graham is working on the performance, I'm going to work on the sound and refine it, and then we're going to check in with each other about where we feel like, if we feel like I've got a finished sound, I like his performance, he's feeling comfortable with what I'm doing, liking the way it's interacting with the song, and then quickly be in agreement and then execute it and move on. Cool. Okay, so the changes that I made, that felt pretty good. The changes I made, I'll explain them, and we'll have Graham play again. I darkened up. I dialed the tone back a little bit on the overdrive because it was sounding a little bit too bright, and I kind of, the atmosphere of this section is dark, and the keyboards is very brooding. So I don't want the guitar to stand out too much. I want it to have a similar texture, frequency-wise, so that it sits with everything else. Certainly could do that stuff in the mix, but I also want to stress again that I want to record with intention. I want you to record with intention. Try to get the sound as close as you possibly can, so that when it comes together at the time to mix, that you're just mixing and balancing and accentuating the performance, and you're not trying to totally create a sound for it at that point. And then also this guitar sound being the way that it sounds, and everything recorded with intention, it just exists that way and will inform the whole process and all of the sounds that you start to add to it. It's just like these existing keyboards are telling me to not have the guitar be too bright, and it's like kind of chill it out a little bit. So I darkened the overdrive a little bit, and I lessened the amount of delay in the mix. This pedal has a delay mix and a reverb mix. I turned the delay mix down just a little bit because I felt like, because he's playing an arpeggiated part, the delay, I don't want it too present because I don't want it to mess with the notes, the change in the melody, and then kind of conflict rhythmically at all. And then I turned the reverb mix up a little bit because I want it to be dreamy the way that the keyboards are. So if you would just play on your own again. I think it's a really cool sound, and as you can hear, the delay is we only get the presence of the delay when he stops playing, pretty much. It's not over top and interfering too much, but it's there. It's creating a little bit of texture and atmosphere, and we can hear the reverb blooming a little bit more and kind of creating that texture. I'm pretty happy with the sound. Can we just have let's record it and have a playback, because it's always important to play back and listen, because the reality is we're working in the same room. I'm hearing a little bit of what's happening acoustically in the space. I want to really get a sense of how it's fitting into the track, and not have Graham's attention. He's the artist. I don't want his attention divided while he's playing. I want him to be able to listen to it and say, yeah, I like the way that feels. So let's record it again. It's feeling pretty good. Can we just listen to that pre-chorus on input? Can we just try strums that aren't quite as big, or maybe just kind of on the pre-chorus, yeah, maybe strum up instead of down. Just real small, just maybe something like that, building up. Okay. See, this is part of the process. Is experimenting, figuring stuff out, and just trying to spitball some ideas here, because everything that we had talked about was working in the verse, and now it doesn't really feel like we have the best part or a decided part yet for the pre-chorus. So just kind of want to. Mm-hmm. Can we try that one more time? I mean, maybe just try a.
It should be
I don't know if you have a thought about that.
I'm wondering, because the overdrive guitars are like, chunk, chunk, chunk. They're doing those quarter notes, or whatever. So should this be like a faster picking thing, like something like?
Let's try it. Let's see how it transitions into the verse. Into the chorus. Yeah. It's like, as much as we can discuss and work on the performance aspect of things, as opposed to, we could put a compressor pedal on in here in the signal path for the guitar, or we could put one in the recording path, which we may do, depending. I don't want this to be difficult to be played, but to work to figure out these dynamic things.
But yeah, not too heavy on those first couple of little.
Well, yeah, just the high notes because they just kind of poke out and ring through so present. Cool. I feel very confident about the last thing we punched. I'd like to punch up. I'd like to punch the beginning of the verse up to that, just even as a safety of it.
Sure.
You know, sometimes it's good once you feel like you've got something to just do one more take as a safety. You have to be careful with. You have to be careful in that you don't want the artist or the performer to feel like. You tell them like, that's great, that's the one, do it one more time please, that you're not really being truthful with them, or they can trust that you're, but it's also like, if you feel like you've got it, it just sort of depends on the personalities. You got to kind of pay attention to the dynamic, but it's like, I feel like we should do it one more time, but it just makes me think about like, sometimes it's good to just do like another take as a safety in case there's a little thing that you need to edit in you didn't notice right away.
Sure.
So
question for you, when I play the first little picking part and you let it rest for that lyric, do you want it to pick back up before the downbeat of the next chord like I did in the
absolutely,
okay.
absolutely do.
Sure.
Absolutely do.
Cool.
And so you don't want to feel like you're discourage someone, you know, by saying, okay, that was great, let's do it one more time. But it's important also to have some coverage sometimes. Yeah. So let's get that punch up to that. Let's get bars 1 through 6. So let's just check our tuning, and let's go to the first verse, and we're just going to be very simple in the first verse. We're going to not play for the first half, and we're just going to kind of come in the second half of the verse and just play some very simple strummed chords. To introduce this sound into the song, you know, I arranged out the more rock heavy guitars for the first verse that were in the tune. We don't want to, you know, we're trying to bend the genre a little bit, change the context a little bit, but I don't want it to feel. I feel like if I took the guitar completely out of the first verse, we'd be going more in a pop direction and just trying to make big choruses. I still want this to sort of be signified as a rock band type of thing with a bit of a different expanded palette of sounds and mood. When we were talking about it before, you had wondered about doing a little bit of arpeggiation on that third chord.
Yeah,
I think we
that's
should.
Right. You're right.
I think we should do that.
Yeah, I'll let you. Yeah, and then do you want anything on the pre-chorus there? Simple strums, or just disappear since the first one?
I think we should do a little bit. I think the arpeggiation idea should kind of continue there through the pre-chorus.
Okay. Just on full chords, or like what we do in the second one, where it's like
probably more full chords.
Okay.
Yeah, just sort of save that. Yep. You know, this is like the crucial part of arranging. Like, you have to think about parts in terms of not just a verse part, but like development of the song, how it's going to change, how it's going to progress. We want this sound and this guitar to appear in the verses and the pre-choruses, but we want to build momentum and have the parts reflective of each other. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be the same at times, but it's something to consider, and it's like developing an arrangement and a journey.
All the so-called progress of our time, and I heard a whisper in my ear, not spending the rest of my life holding on to.
I think that's the program for the part.
Yeah.
I just wonder if those first two strummed chords, that the strum should be just a little bit quicker.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
Side of a smoking gun. You better believe I regret more than half that I've done. And I was on the wrong side of a political line, saying yes to all the so-called progress of our time. And I heard a whisper in my ear, not spending the rest of my life holding on to what.
And I think it's always a good idea, just like I said before, because he's playing in the room, and the experience of hearing something in the moment and listening back to it. It's always, I mean, it's time consuming to you don't always listen to every take, but when you feel like you've got something that's worth evaluating, it feels like the thing, it's good to listen back and kind of check yourself and kind of get a little bit of perspective. Okay, so Graham and I completed the verse parts, and we're now going to do the chorus leading part. We're sticking with the same guitar. We've changed the pickup. Before we were using the neck pickup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then now we've switched to the bridge because we want a brighter tone, something with a little bit more bite on it. We are still using a reverb and delay pedal, but we've changed it. This one's a little bit darker and murkier sounding. It's a Space Echo RE20 pedal. It's where the other one is just kind of a digital delay, digital reverb kind of sound. This emulates tape delay, spring reverb. So it's darker and a little messier. And we're using a Pigtronics Fat Drive to get the overdrive tone. And here again, the main part of the amp setup has stayed the same. I added that salt shaker mic that we talked about earlier, and we'll show that again. But I added that in, and it's out in front of the amps to get a little bit more ambient space and texture for the sound. Because in my mind I know that we're doing a very bright driven sound, and the close mics are going to sound they're going to lack just a little bit of warmth. So having a mic that's back a little bit gives us a little bit of tone. So now we need to sort of refine we've kind of prepped our sound in isolation, and now we're going to listen to it with a tune and make some refinements. This is not a new part. This is an existing part. Yeah. So there probably won't be as much discussion about that, and let's just get to it. So I adjusted the Fat Drive a little bit. I turned the brightness, the tone down a little bit, and I turned the drive up a little bit. That's feeling good. I think what I'm going to do is when we get to the post-chorus part, I'm going to, while he's playing, I'm going to turn the reverb up a little bit. So, I mean, that's like another thing to consider. If you have the ability to have a helping hand, be creative in the recording process as opposed to waiting to make a mix move. And we're just going to go for it. Okay. Great. That all feels really good to me. Let's just move to our second chorus,
yeah.
And we'll kind of review,
yeah.
And see if there's anything. Because we're set up for the chorus part, and then I'm going to make the adjustment on the fly.
Perfect.
For you to just play that instrumental bit. The tag again. So if you guys remember, there's a clean guitar that's mimicking this instrumental bit, and there's a slide acoustic guitar that's mimicking it as well, and they have a lot of atmosphere and reverb on them, and so I'm going to still make the reverb move, but I'm going to do it just a little bit less because I want to because those things come in and kind of provide some of the atmosphere that the change I made in the first chorus did. So I'm still going to make a little bit of change, but now observing with the things that I already put in there with this intention I'm going to modify it yet again, just so this stays really clear and present. So I felt like we could keep the pre-chorus. That felt great.
Yeah.
So let's just drop in on the chorus.
Sounds good to me. Sure. Just play along with me. Yes, sir.